I want to show off how LiquiGen works, because right now what I'm doing is working on like a mock soda commercial, because that was just like the first thing that came to my mind in order to give me an excuse to play around with LiquiGen. And I'm actually already, made some really good progress. As I was editing this commercial, I just had like a quick idea for 3 more additional shots. I already did like, how many is it? Like 10 other ones that you can see here. But there were some blank spaces that I think, okay, some quick pickup shots would be cool. So that gave me a really good excuse to just hit the record button in OBS and just do it really quick, because the whole point of LiquiGen is for fast liquid simulations, opposed to what we're used to before with like Houdini and like even like flip fluids. I think that's what it's called with Blender. Those things aren't real time, but the whole pizzazz and the whole shtick with LiquiGen is that it's real time, and it's supposed to give you nice, good looking fluid simulations like this in real time. LiquiGen right now is in closed beta, which is really only available to those who bought the JangaFX suite. And the suite's actually pretty nice, because there's another program they already made that's already released far along and I've used before. It's actually really great for making explosions, fire, and smoke effects. It's called EmberGen, which is also a really good program and works actually similarly to this. The UI is the same, everything's the same. But LiquiGen is in closed beta, meaning there will be bugs, there will be some stuff not added that they're currently working on now, and there's some early limitations. So like if you see here, features like viscosity, surface tension, white water, and foam are in development. They're not in this build right now. And additionally, they have some limitations when it comes to some of the export settings apparently, but the workflow I'm using is really just exporting the mesh and bringing that into Blender. I'll explain later. If you want access to this, all you gotta do is go to JangaFX.com, buy their suite, which is like $30 a month. So if you just want to use it for a month, which is what I'm doing, it's just $30, and then hook your link your Discord to your JangaFX account, and then go to their Discord channel, and then the download link will be there. Does that make sense? But as soon as you do all that, open it, and you'll be met with this. You won't see these recent projects unless you already messed with it before. These are just like, you see shot 5, shot 4, shot 3, everything. But if you really want to dive into it, they have some resources on how, like, what to learn and how to use it right here. They even have a learn tab right here for more things. I think this is more for EmberGen type of stuff. I can imagine they're going to add LiquiGen type of stuff in a second. But what's cool is that, and I actually use some of these templates, they have templates. So scenes that are already made that actually showcase how to use LiquiGen and how it works. So for instance, one of my favorite ones I use, I think I used it for like shot 3 or something. No, actually maybe the first shot where the can is falling into like a big pool of water. I use this whirlpool super resolution, and you can click any of these. Maybe in the non-alpha version they'll end up having thumbnails for it, but as you can see, it's literally a whirlpool, and as you can see, like a bunch of water is going everywhere, blue water is going everywhere, and you have these cylinders that are being used as like as obstacles, and this cylinder in the middle in particular is spinning, and maybe that's why they call it the whirlpool, because it's making sort of a whirlpool. So whenever you open a template or just like a new file, you're gonna be met with this. So on the top right here, this is like the scene tab, which is literally your scene where you have your liquid, your obstacles, the environment. This is where you visualize your whole scene. If you look to the right, this is a node graph, which is how you set all the parameters up. And as you click on each of these, the parameters for these individual nodes will be over here. So as you can see, I clicked on this. Let me reset it. There's a circle, there's a sphere right here. I clicked, and this is representing that circle. So the parameters for the circle is on the bottom right of the screen. I can make it bigger, I can move it, and like there's there's a gizmo on the 3D viewport too, if that's easier for you to use. Typical to 3D programs, right? And you have all of these nodes, and then over here you have your timeline, which is where you do all the keyframes and everything. If you press reset, it resets the animation. If you press play, it plays the animation, timeline, you know, all the fancy things. But let's get into it. So what exactly is my vision for these shots? So basically what I'm thinking is I want the can and I want water to be splashing behind the can. What my workflow was or is for this project is to design the liquids, have it messing with doing anything that I wanted to. So let's say, oh, I actually did want it to go inside of a donut and splash all over the place. Let's say this is what I wanted. My workflow is to export all of the liquid as a mesh, which you can do by going to the simulation tab, going to this mesh, clicking this dot and just dragging it out and just going to the export, you know, clicking the export mesh. And this is the node so you can export a mesh. And all of it, all the parameters right here, and as soon as you do all the parameters, you know, maybe you want it 200 frames, click export now, you can export it. Another way you can do it is literally just right clicking into an empty space in the node graph. In the export tab, you have export options, you know. So my idea is to do all the shading and all the design in Blender. That's what I've been doing, but doing all the liquid simulations in LiquiGen. How do I get started? Let's reset it with by clicking R. And the first thing, like the absolute first thing I want to do is import. You can go by right clicking and go into this import tab. I want to import my soda can, which it doesn't really have to be this exact soda can because soda cans are really just cylinders. So, but for now, I'm going to try just importing my soda can model. So we're going to go into this import node and we're going to go to file path and we're going to open it by clicking this open folder. I imported my soda can, but you can't see anything, right? You can't see anything because it's not really hooked up to anything. It's literally just a node floating in space. What I can do is, so you have this simulation tab over here. Let me just start with there and let's go backwards. The simulation tab is like the actual parameters for the simulation. And the way it works is they have these inputs. So they have an emitter input, right? They have an emitter input, which is whatever you plug into here, whether it's a circle or a custom mesh. This is what the liquid is going to emit and come out from. So for instance, I could take this circle off or the sphere off. And if I wanted to use my can as an emitter and just use it as a can that's just oozing goo, sorry. I want to use this as an emitter. I can't plug it directly into the simulation tab because there is an emitter node that I want to use. So I'm just going to use that. Again, if you want to use, if you want to just custom do anything, you can just right click and just add these nodes yourself. But I'm just going to simply plug it into what's already there. And if I reset it by clicking that reset button and pressing play, you can see my can is now oozing goo because it's an emitter. Obviously, that's not what I want. What I actually want is I want to use my can as a collider instead, because again, the scene I'm imagining in my head is you have the can floating in space and just a big splash of the soda is just hitting it in the back. So I'm gonna just plug it into the collider. Now you can actually see the can, because if you click on the collider tab, there's a button that says show. You know, if you unclick it, it goes invisible. The emitter is what you want the liquid to come out of. The collider is basically obstacles that you want to actually interact with the liquid, like walls or just balls or anything you want to actually like be an obstacle for the liquid. Drain is kind of similar, except for it literally just kills off the liquid. So let me go one by one. Colliders, I can show you how that works. So I put the soda can as a collider, right? So if I bring back the sphere emitter, right, and just put it right above the can so it oozes onto the can, theoretically, right, the ooze, the liquid, should go onto the can and act like it's just being splashed onto the can. And that is exactly what's happening. Again, it's already set up, and that's basically the scene. Now I just have to actually make it look right? So let's say we just kept this going. It hits the ground, and the liquid just keeps sliding on the ground. But if you look look at it disappears after a certain edge. It actually kind of looks like it's like a circle or something, or like a sphere that's like cutting it off. Like it's not just going into the ether. And that's because of the drain. You see that? So what drain does is like it basically creates a domain expansion. A domain. Or really just like it just creates like a boundary for the simulation to live in, just so there's not an unlimited amount of particles that could potentially just kill your system or your scene. I actually think this is an important thing. You can put any shape into this drain. Usually in all their example scenes, they just use a primitive. So like right now it's just a sphere. So I can make this smaller if I really wanted to. And all of a sudden, you know, I can't go past that. Another important thing to note though, is like anything outside of it, outside of the domain is dead, including any emitters. Like the emitter right now is actually outside of the drain. So if you hit play, this is not gonna be any liquid. But if I were to put it above, right, and maybe even cover the emitter into the drain, you know, now you could see like only the liquid is being affected inside the drain. It actually kind of creates this weird kind of effect because it's like it's basically just acting as a mask for the entire scene, just so you can manage your resources and there's not liquid falling all over the place. So I'm just gonna leave it like this. And so my whole scene is gonna live in there. And then forces, this is how you get the liquid to act how you want it to. By default, on the default scene, right now they have this constant force, which is basically a constant force, and you can put it in any direction. But by default, in the default scene, as soon as you open it up, it's acting as gravity, which is so if you look at the Z parameter, it's negative, which means it's pushing down on the Z axis. And there's more forces too. If you just drag it out, you can see there's drag, there's shape, there's turbulence. All I might go over if it fits working with these scenes. But right now, gravity is like the perfect thing to start with. And then appearance is liquid's appearance. Literally like how you want the liquid to look. If I wanted it to look like blood, I can literally just change the color to blood. Make it look like ink. Make it look like ranch. I can make it look like anything. Now you have an idea of how all of this is working. Because basically, all of this is how you're dealing and setting up your scene. All of this is basically like, let's say these are basically how you visualize your actual scene, especially becomes important if you want to export images straight from LiquiGen, which is an option. And then these are the rendering options. So you can literally just split it like that. Right now, let's just start messing with our scene. So what I want to do is quite literally have this get splashed on from the back. So let's rotate it, not like that. Well, first of all, what I want to do, I just want to literally just flip it so the front of the can is over here, in front, facing us, right? So I'm thinking more of a shot like this. So this is how I'm gonna visualize it. Maybe tilt it a little. So now we gotta get our liquid to act like how we want it to act. So let's go ahead and take this primitive and just move it like that. Okay, and I don't want to ruin this, I don't want to lose this gravity node, so I'm just going to copy and paste it by Control C and Control V. Also plug it. You can honestly plug as many forces into this little dot as you want. And not to mention, I forgot, each of these nodes have a little like power button that makes you go on and off pretty much. I'm going to turn the gravity off, and then I'm going to make this, right? There's no force going at all right now because the gravity node is off and I have this one set to 0. But now I want to set the X to 10. Wait, well that's the wrong way. Let's reset it. Okay, so now it's just straight up going to 10. Okay, cool. And let's just mess with it until it starts hitting the can. Now you see how it's actually just not interacting with the can, which is funny. It's going straight through the can. I have a feeling it's because there is no inside mesh for this, so it's just like the way I'm visualizing it and why it's going through it is because I think the walls of the can is like paper thin, according to the computer. And I think this is literally what I did. I think instead of importing my can, I used that as a reference and just used a cylinder primitive, a primitive cylinder. And then I'm gonna match the cylinder to the can size. And so when I put it in Blender, it'll be similar at least. At least a little bit. Alright. Right now it's matched. Alright, so let's turn off our can. And let's see how it goes with this. Okay, you see, exactly. Now it's actually acting like how it's supposed to act, like pretty much. Yeah, now it's actually colliding pretty appropriately. You can reset it anytime by pressing R and then just playing it by pressing space. Now it looks like it's getting Kamehameha, pretty much. And at this point, now it's just about messing with the simulation until I get something I'm happy with, pretty much. Actually, maybe I won't. But let's mess with another force. I've tried using drag. So what drag does is creates a force opposing the current velocity of the fluid. So it basically just dampens the flow of the fluid. Okay, cool. I messed with this a little bit, and it gave me like actually pretty good results sometimes. Let's see if it literally, okay, so I changed it to 5 and it made it just go slower. I changed it to 1 because I only wanted to dampen it just a little. Maybe even that's too much. Yeah, what I don't like right now is how much flow is happening. So let's change it from, let's go to this emitter tab and change it from 1 to like 0.25. Okay, so as you can see, that's like barely anything. So let's change it to 5.5. Let's take off the drag because I just simply want to go with volume, just deal with the volume. Okay, I want to change this from a sphere to a box, but I think what I want to try to do is make it a skinny, tall box. Doesn't have to be that much in depth, but I want to try to make it. Nah. Maybe that's not working. Let's make it wider, see what happens. Not gonna lie, maybe the sphere was actually the move. All right, let's keep the sphere. I don't like the flow at 0.25. Let's change it to that. What I'm trying to do is make it not as much. One way to do that, if you go to the emitter and you go to this emission mode, you can either have it flowing continuously like a faucet, which is not what I want. Like I said, I just wanted a big splash of water to just hit it. Or you can go to emission mode, change it to fill, and I think it will literally just have it fill up the volume, and that's it. Just once is automatically by default ticked on. Maybe you can turn it off. Okay, then it goes back to continuous, which is interesting. But yeah, what I literally wanted to do is just have like a big splash like that. So I'm actually liking that. Let me try changing it back to a box. See what that does. Maybe a bigger box. Max. Oh, okay. So while you're messing with this, if you have gotten this yellow message that says maximum amount of particles has been reached, that means the amount of particles you're trying to generate is a lot, and it's past the set amount that you put in this resources tab and under the simulation node. So what you can do is go to max number of particles right here and literally just increase it, you know, and then it'll go away pretty much. As you play around with this, literally clicking R to reset it and the spacebar to play and pause becomes your best friend, because you're gonna reset the simulation quite a lot.
A few moments later,
I have what I want for the simulation, but also the idea I had was making a splash onto a peach and some ginger also. We're gonna use them as colliders. Let's import them. that's cool. And then literally the same thing, but just with the peach. Cool. I think we have the general gist, to be honest. So now, if once you have whatever scene that you made, if you want to export it, like I mentioned before, there's 3 ways to export it. You can either export its particles, you can export its mesh, or you can export it as a volume, or you can export the image, the actual image, you know, like an image sequence, and then you just put it as a clip later. What I'm going to do is export it as a mesh, so I'll show you how to do that. Again, if you go to the simulation node and click on the circle right next to mesh, hold it and drag it, you'll get these 2 options. And one of them is export mesh. So you click that, and there's a new node right here. Woo. And then here is all of the parameters. First things first, how many frames do you want to export? I think I'm gonna render out 250 frames for. I'm gonna do it 3 times, and that's gonna be 3 different clips. And what I'm gonna do is have it do that. It's cool with me. We're gonna start with the can. So going back to this export mesh. So I'm gonna make it 250 frames. That's how much I'm gonna export. This directory, you can click this folder button and you get to choose where it's gonna go to. And then you can go to file name. I think you can literally type in whatever you want. Or what you can also do is use some of these that can also help you title it if you don't know what to title it. I usually like titling it the date that I'm rendering it at. Something to help me decide, and the exact shot that it is, and then the draft number that it is. You can choose what format you wanted to do. I think I ended up testing these 3. I did end up rendering them as ABCs. As I could show you, this one for shot 4 ended up being 34 gigabytes just for one draft. When you have hard drives with space that have 1.78 terabytes, I don't know, 35 gigs isn't really that. It's not gonna break the bank, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna go ahead and export these, and I'll come back when they're done. Okay, so it all finished exporting, which means we can go into Blender and design our shots. By going to import ABC, clicking on it, click import. And cool, the liquid is somewhere. I actually don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. All right, and then if you scroll through the timeline, it'll literally be the liquid that you did. And eventually it's gonna hit what we set as the can. Now you can actually just see the outline of the can, so you know what's next. First of all, if you try to like move it or anything, it actually just won't move, but that's honestly okay if you just parent it to a null, which I'm going to do. What I'm gonna do is scroll to like right here where the outline of the actual can is prominent. Hit Shift A and then go to plane axis, and that's one of our nulls. I'm gonna put it in the middle right here of the can. I'm gonna take the liquid, drag it into this while holding Shift, and Bob's your uncle. There it is. Look at that. Cool. Now I can move it by moving the null. So that's exactly what I want to do. I'm gonna scale it down, and I'm gonna put it exactly where that where the can is. I might have to move the can and stuff up. No, I'm just gonna move the background down because I don't want to mess with the lighting. But essentially, this is it. And then you just line it up the best you can. And move back a little bit because I can't really see the bottom. It's honestly okay if you scale it, because I think I might have to scale it on the Z-axis to make it a little longer. And I think there is a bottom. I think that is the bottom right there. Yeah, so let's try to line it up exact. Let's see what we have. Let's hit rend. Let's go to the render viewport and look. It is the mesh. Right now, it actually just straight up looks like milk, which is okay. But if you honestly just put a liquid texture on it, which I already have, I'll walk through, which honestly is just the principled shader, just with the transmission up. I have a little thing right here so I can mess with the color and some volume absorption. And you zoom out, and that's pretty much the liquid right there. To incorporate your liquid in your scene is really just all about inputting it as a ABC, sorry. Inputting it as ABC and just lining it up and giving it a water texture. And that's it. And the water texture could literally be anything. Like literally, if you wanted to make milk, if you wanted to make the liquid milk, let's just go forward a bit. Let's turn this off, and the default texture on it without any texture is already milk. But let's say you wanted to make it something else. You literally just go here and change the color. Now it's like an orange creamsicle type of milk. Or if you wanted to make it red, like this is where you can get creative pretty much. Actually, there is a drop map. What does that look like? That straight up looks like water. I actually kind of like how that looks. That's essentially it. Like once you have this, like you have the liquid in the scene, and at this point you could just light it and do what you want to do with the scene. Now, I mean, I haven't used many liquid simulations. I'm actually new-ish to the simulation game, and my JangaFX and their tools kind of gives me an excuse to get my feet wet in that game. But these are really cool tools to play around with. You can get some really cool results. That's it. I'm gonna go ahead and render these 4 shots, and that'll be that for now. That's how you use LiquiGen. Let's go, rock on. And real quick, before you go, if you want to see how the finished commercial turned out, you can check out the full video on my YouTube. I'll link it in the description.